Blessed be. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to be talking about the lunar eclipse in Pisces occurring, and I am coming out of Lynchburg, Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountain area, and the time is 3:15 p.m., and it is August 27th, 2026. We are on the heels of the eclipse occurring in the Eastern Daylight Time part of the sky here at 12:12 a.m. to approximately 12:12 p.m. in that general area. I've made this sky map for the 12 o'clock time frame, so adjust your clocks accordingly. Before I share the important themes and aspects of this final lunar eclipse that we're having in Pisces, I'd like to take a moment to discuss the recent tragic flooding event that occurred Wednesday morning. A massive section of a Himalayan glacier broke off and crashed down in Langtang National Park, Nepal, and the collapse triggered a massive release of water, mud, and rock, creating high-speed flash floods that swept down multiple river valleys. The disaster began in the Rasuwa district of Nepal near the border with Tibet, affecting towns like Timure and Syabrubesi. Apologize if I pronounced that wrong. As of this recording, the statistics show at least 356 people killed, and nearly 1,400 people are still missing, including many tourists and pilgrims, people that live there, residents. And if you saw any of the footage, it was absolutely devastating. I'd just like to take a moment, collectively, if we could, for 10 seconds. Can we pause together and raise our energy and send it towards all these areas in our world besides Nepal? Not just Nepal. We're seeing great devastations breaking out all over the globe. And now I think they're at the point where these are occurring so often that, first time events or unusual events or weather that we've never seen before kind of thing in areas that we're seeing them. And I think that it is not easy to navigate when we have so much going on with that. So I'm just pausing for 10 seconds. If you don't want to do this, just obviously go forward. But if we could just pause for 10 seconds collectively and send out high vibrations, high intentions for healing of our planet. Thank you. May it be. Open with Cosmos and Psyche by Richard Tarnas, Intimations of a New World View. And this section that I'm reading from comes from Forging the Self, Disenchanting the World, page 16. I do not own this information. I am just going to be sharing on it and giving my own insights. I'm going to read verbatim. Here's what he says. Our worldview is not simply the way we look at the world. It reaches inward to constitute our innermost being and outward to constitute the world. It mirrors but also reinforces and even forges the structures, armorings, and possibilities of our interior life. It deeply configures our psychic and somatic experience, the patterns of our sensing, knowing, and interacting with the world. No less potently, our worldviews, our beliefs and theories, our maps, our metaphors, our myths, our interpretive assumptions, constellates our outer reality, shaping and working the world's malleable potentials in 1,000 ways of subtle, reciprocal, interaction. Worldviews create worlds. Perhaps the most concise way of defining the modern worldview is to focus on that which distinguishes it from virtually all other worldviews. Speaking very generally, what sets the modern mind apart is its fundamental tendency to assert and experience a radical separation between subject and object, a distinct division between the human self and the encompassing world. This perspective can be contrasted with what has come to be called the primal worldview, characteristic of traditional indigenous cultures. The primal mind does not maintain this decisive division, does not recognize it, whereas the modern mind not only maintains it, but is essentially constituted on it. And I think that that is brilliant. It really, in a nutshell, talks about each of us having our own subjective experience and how we view reality and interact with reality and how we create our reality. So nobody is going to see these events in the same way or have the same type of response or the deep desire to have compassionate wells for people that go through this and want to help people and serve people and find answers for them when situations of great calamity occur. And this would, of course, be Pisces energy. This would be the Lord's Jupiter and the Lord's Neptune, who rule Pisces and who are ruling over this lunar eclipse that we are experiencing. Now, at the time of the event there for Nepal, you can see the chart. Mars is in Cancer at the midheaven, and the midheaven is one of the most important spaces on the wheel. It is visual, it is seen, it is known, it cannot hide, and it is what is placed out into the collective from the underroots of the chart. Mars in Cancer falls. It does not do well, and I talked about this earlier this month when I discussed what was going on in the sky with Mars in Cancer and how we really need to take a collective pause. We really need to walk away from the situation, especially involving the home and the 10th house, the 4th and the 10th house axis. This is where this is occurring. And this event occurred rather for Nepal was in the midheaven and 4th house aspect. This suggests very high emotional intensity, directly linked to a public view, the community's collective atmosphere. And with Mars in Cancer, this would be war coming to the shores of the home, of fighting, a need of courage, a need of survival. Mars rules Aries, Mars rules Scorpio. And Saturn and Neptune here are both in retrograde in the 7th house in Aries. And there is a square here to the 10th involving Saturn and Neptune, which speaks of a major breakdown in established structures. This is what squares can do. And they release out with that tension. It busts open. First there's the tension, and then it'll bust open if not dealt with, and it will reveal the hidden emotional forces. This is Cancer, the moon, the subconscious, Pisces, Neptune, the highest of the highest subconscious realms, where we exchange with others in mutable waters of the feet, where they go out and they move around the earth. This is what we saw here, this dissolving of their foundation. And the tension is directing towards relationships and partnerships. That seventh house, other people, an outside event, something that was not initiated from the ascendant, the person. The seventh house is the others. Uranus in Gemini is conjuncting the star Aldebaran in the Jupiter decan. And this brings an emphasis here of sudden, unexpected shifts in shocking communication of foreign spaces and long distant travel. This is the ninth house opposition to Uranus in Gemini, which governs expansive jurisdictional spaces. And this placement suggests to us a disruption that bridges the local environment to an international impact. It was seen by the whole world here. The sextile to the seventh from the ninth in Aries further connects this event with dynamic interactions with other people and locations. So when we look at the part of fortune in Pisces in the sixth in the Jupiter decan, how does the part of fortune in Pisces that we know is stands for water, right? And massive water. It's the last water sign. So it's water that goes out and exchanges in great, great ways. How can the part of fortune, which is a spot of fortune and favor, if we focus on there and work that area, we can have blessings. Well, how could this have been a blessing where we lost so many lives and so many are still missing? Well, the part of fortune represents joy and tangible success by embodying the qualities wherever it's placed. In Pisces, this is going to encourage us to have a rooted response of great compassion, emotional healing, and spiritual support. So waves of prayers and waves of intentions and waves of goodwill are being sent to Nepal at this time. The sixth house governs service and overcoming adversity. It's the house of health and the healer. And this blessing manifests as providing aid and essential care to those in need. And the Jupiter decan adds a layer of protection and guidance. This is going to suggest that through this collective effort of service, there could be a profound healing path towards rebuilding. Getting back to how I opened up and talked about Richard Tarnas and Cosmos and Psyche and worldview, it can be really hard to see how something so tragic, so devastating, so horrible could somehow have a silver lining. But I think that is alchemy at its finest. I believe as humans that experience trauma or horrible events that occur in our lives, devastating events that we can't wrap our heads around. I believe that there's a deeper magic still, just like Aslan talked about in the Chronicles of Narnia when he was working with the witch. And she did not know about the deeper magic that lay in alchemy, in the death of something, bringing forth life. I know your worldview is different than mine. I don't expect your worldview to be like mine. But I want to thank you, those that are with me on this and seem to resonate with me. I want you to know you mean the world to me, because I am navigating from that launch point of a lot of questions that haven't had answers from my own childhood. And there has been trauma. And I have had to die to a lot of my understanding of how to process that and bring it into a place of health. And this is what's going on with this axis here of Virgo and Pisces. The axis of health and healing, the axis of collective health and healing. The 6th to the 12th, the healing in the 12th that lay deep inside you, in your very psychology, in your worldview point, in your spirituality, in how you see things. This is what's up for a theme and a introspective view with this eclipse. So let's go to the Pisces chart now with this lunar eclipse quickly. The key themes from the chart include service, healing, and compassion, alongside visible emotional vitality in the community. There is going to be, more than likely, after this eclipse, or it could have been happening days before, but there is going to be sudden disruptions, breakdowns of structures, and an ask of bridging trauma into transformation, taking this earthy Virgo view and casting it up and out, away from the earth, and being willing in faith to trust that when you take your feet off the earth and you go out and you swim out in the waters, right? That you will connect with all that is. Your higher self, your higher meaning, your higher reason, and the deepest subterranean parts of you that lay on the ocean floor, that subterranean level of the psyche that are being asked to be dealt with. And we see this with the aspects that are occurring and with the tarot card that is being represented by a Pisces lunar eclipse. That would be the Hangman, card 12, which reduces to a 3. I'm going to briefly go over the Hangman and some of the messages there that are to be found. And this is from the Tarot of the Spirit by Pamela A. Eakins, Ph.D., companion to the Tarot deck, painted by Joyce Eakins, and this is her sister. And she talks about the Tarot keys, and she talks about the Hangman on page 319. Key 12, the Hangman. It is time to retreat, withdraw, and surrender to quietude. When the internal waters are stilled, like I was just talking about here, the bottom of the ocean where you can sit, way deep below. You can see and hear your deep eternal self, which is your own truth. Through meditative contemplation, you will arrive at the truth. Your glorious nature is revealed when the clear waters of your mind cease to be disturbed by rippling thoughts. This is the time of voluntary withdrawal. Re-enter the world only when you know you have received answers. Do not be pushed or agitated by the whims of others. Now, this Pisces moon is at 4 degrees, occurring in the first decan, which is the decan of Saturn. Saturn holds, requires you to take a closer look, wants to place some structure, wants to put a container for your water so that you can then use it in a practical way as the healer on the earth. Under her meditation section, she says this: submersion in the element of illusion, suspension from dependence, crossed like an anchor, descending from light to dark, while the serpent of the new life stirs beneath the waves at the bottom of the sea green, deep, dark depths, and wells that are flat, calm, and churning with undulating currents. The will to surrender beyond that which is to that which was and shall become, the willing surrender to a flow beyond culture, back to the womb grave, tomb shell, the shining home of the first reflection. A clear vision from the immersion, sound waves traveling like lost and haunted bells across obstructive swells of limitation and defense. Submersion to discover self as the vehicle for true ascent. Key 12, the Hangman, represents a suspended mind. At Key 12 on the Kabbalah Tree of Life, you are in a time and place of surrender. You are letting go. You are voluntary retreating. You are evolving, and this process necessitates a withdrawal. The Hangman immerses himself in water, the element of deep understanding. There it is possible for him to tap the deep flow of the original intellect, the universal mind, the most stable intelligence, the brilliant pattern of thought known before and beneath the myriad dimensions of cultural overlay. He is immersed in the cosmic womb, that which cradles spirit and builds form. This womb is a shell of protection, which offers a way of knowing through quieting the mind and releasing the self from preoccupation with everyday matters. The Hangman is submerged in deep introspection. The card symbology. The Hangman is inverted upon a cross to which he is tied by a rope, perhaps the serpent of rebirth, which does not actually bind him. This indicates that his posture is a willing withdrawal. At any time he can emerge from this state. The swirls of blue and green symbolizes submersion in the cosmic sea, that realm of formation and reformation in which all creative force is cast into form. The point at the top of the inverted man's head, at the bottom of the card, represents the cutting away of extraneous and antiquated thoughts and modes of thinking. Extraneous and antiquated, thoughts and modes of thinking. In submersion, the Hangman is truly beginning to get the point. He sees with eyes closed, for the journey is inward. His hands are behind his back, and that this is a time of not doing. His legs are crossed in an inverted four because he is reassessing his involvement in the material world. That his heel is in the center of his cross means that he is balancing and centering between matter, intellect, spirit, and emotions, and that, upon emerging from his retreat, he will take his first step from a balanced perspective. The hangman resides on the left pillar of the tree of life, the pillar of matter and judgment. He can only judge the form of his existence through withdrawal into the deepest layers of self. This is the solitary task of deep reflection at the innermost depths of the luminous sea of Bana, key 3. And this does reduce to key 3. Lastly, out of tarot and astrology, enhance your relationships with the wisdom of the zodiac. Corrine Kenner, I do not own this information. She talks of the hangman through Neptune. And this is page 35. The hangman spends hours or even days suspended in a trance-like alternative reality. He is in perfect sync with Neptune, the planet of spiritual and psychic enlightenment. The hangman's conscious transcends the physical, just as Neptune itself seems to escape the ordinary bounds of physics. After all, the planet is composed mostly of ethereal mist and gases. It is a planet of dreamlike illusion, as well as an existence removed from the limitations of physical concerns. From that vantage point, mystical experiences come easily. Both Neptune and the hangman are associated with fantasy, imagination, and visionary art. They are idealistic, sensitive, and exceptionally psychic. Now, I want to say here, and segue to the left real quick and then get back to this. Wherever you have Neptune is extremely important to look at, collectively and in your own chart, because Neptune is trying to do a work here and has been trying to do a work here through these series of eclipses with Virgo and Pisces. If you have Neptune on the 1st, the 4th, the 7th, or the 10th, or wherever these lay, it may not necessarily be in the 10th or the 1st, but let me say it this way. The ascendant, the IC, the descendant, and the MC are crucial to know here if you have Neptune on either one of these. I have Neptune exactly on my Scorpio ascendant. And it is really been my challenge navigating this high imagination, visionary art, and being able to escape and go out there and bring it down to structure. And, you add trauma to that, where you disassociate and more than often, come away from your body depending on the trauma. If it's repeated, like complex trauma, like mine was, I would just leave my body. But the body remembers and the body keeps score. And so I've had to really navigate these waters in places that and had to feel the pain and had to go through the shadow work and had to understand where I hid the pain and where I stored it. Like I'm telling you, this is a whole conversation wherever Neptune is. Very important to see. I continue with the book, page 35. Neither one is very good at establishing boundaries. The real world can be a dark and dangerous place, and both the hangman and Neptunian spirit quickly learn to escape through meditation, prayer, sleep, and dreams. Occasionally, they seek refuge in alcohol and drugs. Sometimes those substances are a form of self-meditation and medication. I added meditation. It's not in there, but I do see that some of these substances can be useful if managed and used properly. For instance, we use alcohol in tinctures to draw out the medicinal benefit. For instance, people use marijuana that helps them just not be so connected to the body and not feel so much pain. In an effort to block the unsolicited psychic messages that flood the Neptunian soul. In a tarot reading, the Hangman card often represents a period of willing self-sacrifice and the suspension of everyday cares and concerns. It could suggest a retreat or a change in perspective. While most versions of the card show the Hangman upside down, he rarely seems to be in any pain or discomfort. Instead, he seems to be tuned into higher consciousness. This is a reward, not punishment. And in the fifth sphere of Gabbara, the sphere of strength and power, the fives, where this sits on the tree, it's ruled by Mars, the planet of war. And Mars is in Cancer, and Mars falls in Cancer. The home, the moon, all Cancer themes. The fifth sphere is the halfway point in the 10 stages of existence. In most cases, nature's creations have to fight for their right to survive, but they're made stronger in the process. It's all part of the cycle of life. While Jupiter expands, Mars contracts, and the red planet's aggressive energy reins in the otherwise uncontrolled chaos of unbridled creativity. In Tarot, the fives are cards of crisis and conflict. They depict tests of skill and talent and challenges of spirit and will. And the five, of course, leads to Tippereth, the six, the sphere of beauty. And the sixes are the knights. So where's your courage in this? And where's your fearlessness to go out and really get on that horse and figure this out? And take a look at the Knight of Cups, which represents water. And take a look at the deeper meanings of the Hangman. And take a look at the 3 card, which reduces to the Empress, right? The first 3. And take a look at all of the fives. And I think you'll see a theme coming through here. The hands in the pockets of the Hangman represent self-sacrifice and self-imposed sacrifice with serenity. And his face is nonchalant or entranced. And the figure may have originated from the worship of Dionysus, Bacchus, and the Orphic mystery rites that celebrated sacrifice in order to achieve regeneration. The Hangman is bound and suspended by his left heel, a form of public disgrace known as bafflement, which was used in Renaissance times, notably to humiliate miscreant knights. It was common practice to hang the baffled criminal from a tree, but here a makeshift gallows has been built between 2 saplings, each with 6 amputated branches, suggesting the possibility of renewed growth to income. His legs form a cross. Depictions by medieval artists linked the Orphic theme from the story of Jesus and depicted the Hangman as Judas Iscariot, with 30 pieces of silver tumbling from his pockets. Modern cards portray the falling coins as a symbol of contempt for worldly riches. Although depicted as a crucified figure, the Hangman is bound to an Egyptian ankh, a symbol of life. And that was from the Tarot Decoder. Interpret the symbols of the Tarot and increase your understanding of the cards. Kathleen McCormick, page 56. All right, so with that, let's take a look at the chart occurring in the Eastern Daylight Time for the Lynchburg, Virginia area. and interpret this a bit and see what messages are coming forward. So let's start here with the Pisces moon conjunct Fomalhaut up in the midheaven in the decan of Saturn, the sub-ruler of Venus. Fomalhaut is a royal star. Fomalhaut is a star in the constellation of Pisces Asternus, the southern fish, the fish's mouth, and is traditionally associated with fame. A powerful star of the nature of Venus and Mercury, it is said to stimulate mental capabilities and the development of a spiritual viewpoint. It's associated with science, mysticism, and alchemy. So Fomalhaut is speaking here very clearly conjunct this moon and asking us to look at our sensitivity, our susceptibility to external influences, where our highly instinctive nature affects our moods, affects our environments, and to guard against being too soft, being taken advantage of, not having strong enough boundaries, and where you feel inclined to move out in ways that psychically connect you, but perhaps may not be the most grounded. There's a high capability here with this conjunction to bring about deep healing. But we have to make sure that we look at the opposition and the other aspects that are taking place here. The moon is very visible in the 10th. It is in the house of career, and it is dealing with feminine influences. And opposite the sun in Virgo is going to bring about a need for harmony. There's a discontented, intense feeling here that is being experienced between the axis of Virgo and what you're doing out there in the outer world, where you're launching from home and showing up in the greater collective. This opposite of sun and moon also shows a strain between the masculine and the feminine, and the male-female parents, the mother, the father. Moon opposite Mercury here, the ruler of Virgo, is with Virgo, and that's a positive thing. But there could be some inconsistency here if your highly perceptive abilities go out and are not grounded. And you could be engaging truly in ways that is not communicating clearly from the home out into the collective. There could be gossip. You could be criticizing others. You could be stretching the truth. Moon opposite Mercury here. All these things come up. The moon is in a sussy quadrant to Venus. And this is going to bring about an ability for you to transform this into some art. Venus is speaking here, dealing with values, dealing with money, dealing with art, dealing with creativity, dealing with partnerships, where you're coming out in your artistic creations into the collective, especially painting, music, photography. Now the moon here is trining Mars. Feelings and actions in sync with one another. Trines are harmony. How you're feeling is going to determine how you act. And with Mars here in the moon, there could be some trouble expressing them if you're not grounded. And there's a boldness and courageousness here, asking you to speak your mind and express yourself in a direct manner. But Mars falls in Cancer. Mars falls in Cancer. And the opposition here is the 4th and 10th of the axis of Virgo, which is daily life 6th, and the 12th, our greatest collective life, how we feel about our spiritualness and how we come from out there in our meditative states down to earth and serve. Mars rules Aries and Scorpio. In the ruler of Pisces, one of the rulers, Neptune, the other Jupiter, is in Aries, in the Mars decan. So it's in retrograde with Saturn going back towards Aries. And Neptune in retrograde in Aries isn't the easiest energy. This is waves coming back in on itself. And in Aries, there's a value here of courage and selflessness and, wanting to come out for the common good and the common collective and fight and defend and bring out philosophical and religious understanding here and higher spiritual ways. And in the 11th, this is about the collective. This is about your groups and your friendships. So we see a tie here between the 4th and the 10th and the 5th and the 11th, where we've had the nodes and Leo and Pluto, right? Like these same messages asking us over and over, where are you showing up in the collective? Saturn working there with Neptune, trying to put some structure around this energy where you're showing up in groups and connecting with other people in an artistic, visionary way. There needs to be some structure here, some addressing of the ways that you've gone out. And it could be with Mars, it could be that some people are letting you down and some breaking up of groups and structures that you thought were going to be okay, and they're just not. Some of the message, how is this affecting your health? How is this affecting your daily life? Where you show up, what you think about, what you do on a daily basis. How is the collective interfering or impacting your daily life, your home? Neptune squaring Mars, difficult energy, undermining Mars' ability to act, dissipating Mars' power, and it'll cause it, if not careful, to be directed in very misguided ways. Physically, the body's defenses are weakened. Susceptibility to infections, viruses, all kinds of illnesses here, if we're not careful. Now, on a more uplifting note, we see this aspect found among very spiritual people. If you can overcome this square, right? And integrate it. It's meant to propel you towards more higher good, more compassion. Get out there in the visual arts. Get out there in theater, film, photography, fashion, physical exercise, swimming, water, sports. All this is involved here with Neptune, Aries, and Mars. Neptune is sextiling Uranus, working with that first house ascendant, and the decan of Jupiter with the star of Aldebaran. Aldebaran is a star in the constellation of Taurus, the bull, meaning the follower of the Pleiades and the bright right eye of the bull. It's the brightest star in Taurus and of the nature Mars. It's associated with public or military honors and courage. It can also denote extraordinary energy and ambition. In conjunction with the malefics, it could bring danger and loss through water, by floods, natural disasters, and drowning. My goodness, did we not just see this with what occurred in Nepal? Was there not news of a catastrophe, of flooding? So tensions in that 11th house, the Lord of Neptune, between social ideas and immediate community roots. Neptune Saturn indicates a disruptive breakdown of collective group structures, asking you to be honest. Look people in the eye, communicate. Aries demands this. Aries wants you to be courageous. Aries Lord Mars is in Cancer fall, and Leo's Lord Sun is in Virgo, conjunct Mercury, conjunct Pythia, the oracle opposite the 10th. Pythia speaking here. Know thyself and no excess. Find your center. There's a face-to-face showdown that's asking you to resolve this Sun, Moon, this Virgo Pisces axis that's coming up, and that sudden need for freedom and shock and awe that perhaps is going to come out with that sextile. Collectively, the 7th trines the 11th as well in that fire Sagittarius expression. This energy's moving. This energy's active. So there is a lot to be said about this time in this season that we find ourselves in. And I want to encourage you to take really good care of your health. As of this Pisces lunar eclipse, we have Scorpio, Mars residing in the 6th house. And Mars in Scorpio is trining Cancer in the 2nd, trying to work with her in speaking about, hey, where do we need to look at how we're using our Mars in relationship to our personal power, our personal creativity, and how it's impacting our relationships with others on deep psychological ways, and how we can perhaps take a retreat and pull away and have a view from the top down instead of this earthly view. The eclipses along the Virgo Pisces axis have been guiding us through major release of burnout, overwork, and our need for control. Virgo often demands perfection and hyper focuses on the details, while Pisces invites us to surrender, trust our intuition, and let go of the need to micromanage outcomes. So this is asking you, where are you showing up on this axis here in group settings with your psychology? Since we have Neptune in the 11th here, we have to look at this. And we have Mercury in the 4th, conjunct the Sun. And it is in an inconjunct to the 11th. So something's not being seen. Inconjuncts are very, very difficult. They're 150 degrees apart. And that Sun is exact inconjunct almost, to Neptune. So it's very important to see, where are we not seeing clearly? That's what is being asked of us here. And where are we trying to micromanage everything and make it, so perfect in Earth on a daily basis that we just can't even function on these higher levels of spirituality, and where there's a lot of compassion and a lot of love and a lot of peace coming down from the heavens, coming down from the ether upon us. And Pisces invites us to surrender and trust our intuition. So as the cycle wraps up, we're transitioning into a new era with eclipses falling on the Leo Aquarius axis. This next phase calls us to focus on authenticity creative self-expression, and our contributions to the collective. The eclipse cycle on the Pisces-Virgo axis began with a lunar eclipse in Pisces on September 17th, 2024, followed by a lunar eclipse in Virgo on March 14th, 2025. It continued with another lunar eclipse in Pisces on September 7th, 2025, and a solar eclipse in Virgo on September 21st, 2025. In 2026, we saw a lunar eclipse in Virgo on March 3rd and another in Pisces on August 28th. This cycle wraps up the lunar eclipse in Virgo on February 20th, 2027. So February 20th, 2027 brings the final eclipse in this series, and it marks the completion of all those spiritual and practical lessons we've been working through. The mutable signs, Virgo, Pisces, Gemini, Sagittarius, you will have felt this the most. The primary themes have been learning to balance practical details with spiritual surrender, moving away from micromanaging, and finding faith in the bigger picture. In reality, the shadow of Virgo as a mutable earth sign can look like getting completely stuck in analysis paralysis. You might find yourself obsessing over minor errors, constantly criticizing your own progress, or trying to control every single variable in your health or daily routines to the point of causing more anxiety. In daily routines, Virgo shadow can manifest as nitpicking partners or colleagues for tiny flaws and hyperfixating on health symptoms rather than trusting in the body. When it comes to service and relationships, this energy might lead to overfunctioning, where someone takes on everyone else's burden to the point of martyrdom. In health, it could mean ignoring basic needs through escapism rather than practicing sustainable self-care. For healing the Pisces-Virgo axis, you might explore therapies like sound healing or meditation to quiet the mind. Crystals like amethyst can support spiritual connection, and moonstone can ground the mind. You can use mantras like, I surrender the need to control, and I trust the flow of life. I am grounded and connected to my inner wisdom. Navigating the vast, nebulous depths of the Pisces-Neptune fog during a lunar eclipse requires immense discernment, as the current accelerant of artificial intelligence channels a limitless stream of illusion that easily distorts us from physical reality. While these expansive spiritual waters offer profound information, access to the collective imagination, the danger lies in losing our vital grounding, making it essential to harness Virgo's precise, analytical faculty to restore balance and anchored clarity. In Virgo, the sign it rules, Mercury brings sharp focus and clarity to our thoughts and communication. During the Pisces lunar eclipse, this archetype helps us discern what is truly practical and sustainable versus what is merely illusion. By focusing on organizational research and detailed analysis, Mercury in Virgo allows us to ground the eclipse's intuitive insights into actionable, everyday reality. Waiting in the shallows, where your feet still touch the earth, allows you to enjoy the thrill of the waves without losing your bearings. But venturing too far into the deep, uncharted waters removes that vital anchor. In those vast depths, the currents of illusion can easily overpower your senses, making it crucial to recognize when to return to safety of the shore to maintain your clarity and perspective. Blessed be. May you have a powerful lunar eclipse in Pisces, and may our world heal as a result of it. Take care.